Hello. We have a full moon and lunar eclipse today, tomorrow morning, Wednesday, March 23rd. Here on the west coast of California, it will be around at 5:03 a.m. Today is Tuesday, March 22nd, and this morning there was three bombings in Brussels in which I think around 31 people were killed and a number of people were injured. And that shows you that the that the kind of crazy astrological energy that has been active for some time, and that was definitely set off by the last new moon and solar eclipse 2 weeks ago, is still very much active. Typically, lunar eclipses are always when the shadow of the Earth falls over the moon. So, that's supposed to represent like a kind of tamping down of the emotional connective energy that the moon expresses, and the solar eclipse is the moon coming over the sun, which is supposed to kind of increase the general, insanity and paranoia that's associated with the moon. In all honesty, the moon right now, which usually gets all the blame for this, astrologically, is one of the few rational things happening. The moon is in Libra, an air sign, a wonderful air sign, in which binds, moves people together and brings, makes people like each other and connect and want to connect. And the moon is generally making, aside from being opposite the sun, is generally making, fairly positive aspects. And we'll get back to that. And it speaks of connection between people. We'll get back to that a little bit more towards the end, although that certainly does also play part in some of the aspects that are happening bring into some of the other stuff that we'll talk about in a moment too. So if there was a key word for this period of time that includes this lunar eclipse and full moon, it would be exaggerated and overblown. Or Shakespearean. Shakespearean would be a good word. The Shakespearean in both the romantic comedy sense and and definitely in the tragic sense, as we saw in Brussels this morning. There is a very powerful romantic aspect that one could be feeling personally, and it is a really wacky romantic aspect. Think of the Twelfth Night, what's the other one? A Midsummer's Night's Dream. The Twelfth Night, where the two twins, Sebastian and Viola, are shipwrecked and separated, and then Viola dresses up like her brother. She ends up falling in love with Count Orsino, who thinks she's a man, and he falls in love with Countess Olivia, who thinks that Viola is a man and falls in love with her/him. And, hi-jinks ensue until, the happy ending. Anyhow, aside from necessarily the happy ending, think of that. And also think of the Twelfth Night, where people are turned into animals, and I can't remember if animals are turned into people, and there's some kind of puckish, mischief-making figure running around and kind of making everyone go crazy. That would be the romantic energy right now. So whether you consider that a good thing or a bad thing might depend upon your own astrological chart or your own perspective. But it is a kind of, romantic comedy type energy in which the sorts of dynamics that we've had going of illusion and kind of general craziness, people feeling exaggerated feelings, kind of like an overblown romantic obsession with somebody perhaps, or mistaking one person for another, or certainly a total tendency to over-romanticize someone, and, complicated by whatever kinds of circumstances you could imagine. This is, and along with the general inability to focus on the rules, you could say this is all spring fever, wanting to skip school and just like, have some sort of good time. Uh, but along with that comes the whole notion of paranoia and betrayal, which kind of plays into the negative side as well. So you can see how the overblown, exaggerated aspect could be sort of fun and sort of nerve-wracking romantically. On other levels, though, that kind of paranoia is what we've seen politically, along with the need to believe, that there's some sort of them out to get us, and that the rules and those who have made the rules can't be trusted, that we have to break all that, and all of this being exaggerated by Jupiter, and some sort of puckish figure, messing his finger in there and creating trouble where trouble doesn't necessarily have to be created, saying things like, build a wall. So that too fits in because Saturn, as I'll speak about more in my other video about Saturn is in Sagittarius. And that should be acting one way, but given the kinds of aspects we're having, what it's doing is creating a kind of fear, the paranoia, the restriction around acceptance of other cultures, around travel, around a general acceptance of other religions, the feeling that we need to protect our own and we can't trust anyone else but ourselves, which the sort of Aries energy can also play into as well. Can feel the need to sort of batten down the hatches and, build those walls and take care of my people, my culture, my religion. This is all that's safe. This is not how Saturn and Sagittarius is supposed to work. It's actually supposed to work the opposite way. Even though Saturn limits, it's supposed to ultimately teach. So it's supposed to ultimately teach a kind of a tolerance, a structured tolerance, a wise kind of tolerance of other cultures and other religions, and safety around travel. But it's not supposed to just serve as like a kind of restriction of all that, of this kind of the kind of expansive energy that Sagittarius usually represents. But the other planetary aspects right now are building this into that kind of, like, again, exaggerated, paranoid, over the top feeling of we are in danger. And in fact, as you can see with some of the other planetary movements, there is danger, not necessarily always from those fronts that we most think we need to protect ourselves against, but there is danger of sudden unexpected accidents or violence, as we saw. Anger is prone. On a personal level, what you can and need to do about this is get physical exercise. That's a good way to take care of that energy. And to just generally be active. There's also a really powerful earth energy that can be positive. This is the energy that's supposedly clouding the moon, but it doesn't have to. A kind of connection into nature and service and taking care of others. And even more so with the moon in Libra, the idea of really truly reaching out to others and helping where we can, of using that Aries energy for impulsive acts of generosity. That is the way around all of the troubled energy that we have. But on a personal level, one-to-one with the Libra moon, and on a social level, if we can reach out in kindness, we circumvent a whole lot of difficult energy. That's very important to remember in your own life, and hopefully that will be remembered by those who control the or are trying to manage the crazy political and social energy as well. Meanwhile, try to enjoy the somewhat crazy ride without getting caught up in the hysteria. The spring fever energy can be fun, And there can be a lot of active, sort of exciting and pleasurable energy, as long as you don't let it get out of hand. All right, talk to you in a couple of weeks. Bye. Oh, and more about the whole Saturn thing in the Saturn video that will be forthcoming. Bye.